Alright guys, so before we get into reviewing the game, I do want to say before we do this was a big game, obviously, for playoff reasons. It was a big game. In case the Ravens don't win their division, then it would come down to us and them for the wild card round. I'm just saying hypothetically. And then obviously you have Denver in there. Okay, actually, well, it probably would be Denver and them obviously. They got to play the Jaguars and had, I think, one defensive touchdown, so they got a little lucky there. But it's probably going to come down to a lot of things. But we still control what happens at the end, as long as we keep winning. And it shouldn't take away from what we've accomplished this year. For a 6-game win streak, if we won on a 7-game win streak, we haven't done that since the 80s, for God's sake. So that's a long time ago. So shouldn't take away from what we've accomplished and established consistency within the Dolphins organization, and completely changing everything. I mean, to win 6 games in a row is an extremely hard thing to do, and it shouldn't be. And we didn't get some very good football teams. We weren't playing, terrible football teams. We played some really good teams with a really good, position. It shouldn't take away from what we accomplished. And obviously, this game was butt kicking. It was terrible to watch, but it had a lot had to do with it. Whether that be, I'm not making excuses, but this is, I hate when people say that about injury. When you don't have your best player out there, and then the other team knows it, and then they know that they're not going to be, playing that certain player, and they know the weaknesses of your team, and they exploit that, then that shouldn't be an excuse. It should just be, they're just taking advantage of your bad situation, which it sucks, but it's true. But like I said, it shouldn't take away from anything that we've accomplished. A 6-game win streak. You guys should be as upset, I think, as everybody collectively as a group is. Like I said before the season even started, all y'all kind of expected that, first year head coach, none of these players are his players. These were, the coach before him players. So you all kind of expected it to be, I don't know, something, wasn't his personnel, wasn't his kind of, some of these players on this team right now don't fit his offense as well as some of the teams, versus, the players that he could build with and, get to that point with the offense. And obviously we're learning curve. I don't think any of you expect this. If I told after the 1-4 start and I said, we're going to go on a 6-game win streak, nobody would have believed that. So I think it is still a huge accomplishment. Adam Gase, in my opinion, still coach of the year. I haven't seen anybody do as good of a job and win them football games by coaching the game as Adam Gase has. So I shouldn't take away from anything. It should, if anything, like I said, get everybody excited for years to come. So let's get into the game. Before the game, I think we'll start with the defense. The defense was obviously a big reason why we lost the football game. It was probably the biggest reason. Spencer Paysinger played a lot of downs this game. No idea why. Obviously, he's a special teams player. Obviously, Jelani was out, but he still doesn't get a lot of the snaps. I don't understand. I know Spencer is a better tackler, and he's a lot bigger than Neville is. But Neville is so much better than Spencer at pass in zone coverage or man coverage. He's just better. I don't understand the move there to keep him out there on almost every single down. I really don't understand that move. Obviously, then Kiko goes down, and we had Mike out there, who's a practice squad special team guy. He's a great tackler, terrible in coverage. Doesn't have the physical tools or ability to keep with NFL tight ends at all, especially experienced ones like Dennis Pitta. They had a tight end out there. Forget his name, Boyle, because I get dude on the Colts, Boyle. I get them mixed up all the time, but he didn't catch a pass all year. He had a pretty dang good game against us and caught his first pass in that game. So that kind of tells you how bad, how hurt we were and how bad our linebackers were in that game. And this has been a problem all season. And we've talked about it before. Ever since Rashard went down, I was like, oh god. I don't know who we're gonna have, guarding the tight ends. That's probably, from the the game that Delaney Walker had on us, now the game that Dennis Pitta had on us, who's been terrible since his injuries. I'm not saying Dennis Pitta was a great tight end, but since his injuries, not so good, not as explosive as he used to be, and looks like an all pro tight end against us. So against the 49ers, Brent Selleck. All those guys having a great, they have a really good young tight end, McDonald. His name is escaping me right now, but he's good, but he's not that good. He had some if it wasn't for fumbles, they would have went up and down the field on us like they did. They had over 400 yards of offense on us. Covering tight ends has been a problem for this team. Even when Rashard Jones was here, it was a problem because we just can't stay healthy with our linebackers. Obviously, Koa cannot stay healthy. Jelani can't stay healthy, and that causes problems for this football team. So that was a huge deal, and they knew that. They game planned for it. Obviously, they didn't know Kiko was going to go down, but obviously he broke his thumb. And he was out, and that was, after that, it was pretty bad. It was pretty apparent. I mean, everything was in the middle of the field. Michael Thomas, not a good coverage safety. He's smart. He just doesn't have the physical tools like a Rashard Jones does. He's primarily a special teams player, just like Mike Hull, just like Spencer. They're really good special teams players. Not good starting NFL linebackers. Still don't understand the move to keep Neville out there. Neville, out of all of our linebackers, can give anybody a run for their money in terms of pass coverage. Neville Hugh's a really good guy in coverage. Even though, when he got in the game, he made a couple plays. He wasn't obviously perfect. Everybody was getting their butts kicked. Zone coverage was terrible this game and has been all year. If you can name a whole lot of big plays that other teams have had on us when we play like a cover 2. I can name so many. The one against the Bills, one against Seattle on 4th down. Obviously, the Bills only built Marquise Goodwin. Michael Thomas didn't get over fast enough. So many touchdowns this year has been us because we've been either messed up, blown a coverage, or something like that. And obviously, Rashard Jones, we've said this, we've talked about this many times. Ever since he left, even when he was here, obviously he can't cover everybody. It was a problem. It was a problem last season, but when he left, it became even more of a problem. And the Ravens did a very good job of knowing that and exploiting that. The 49ers did that last week. They did that pretty well. And it showed. I've never seen Brashard Perryman so wide open in an NFL game. Just wide open. Nobody within 20 yards of him. That's stuff that you can't have that happen. It was pretty sad. Obviously, they even put Steve Smith in the middle. Obviously he's a slot guy, so he had a really good game. Joe Flacco really people that you don't even hear of had a good game against us. Just simple stuff too. It wasn't even hard things to guard. It was I don't understand. Sometimes we had Kiko on an island by himself on man defense before he broke his thumb. I don't understand the thought process in that. There was one play where he just totally got shook on a route. Some calls weren't the greatest. I know Vince was probably trying to find an answer for what was happening. And you couldn't stop it. Obviously, the pass rush, not their fault that they couldn't get there. Joe Flacco was getting the ball out of his hands really fast. I think he had 35 dropbacks. He didn't get hit once. No quarterback hits. I think he got pressured a couple times, but he had no quarterback hits, no sacks, and that's just that's how our defense wins games. Is when Camway can get to the quarterback, Andre Branch can get to the quarterback, Sue can get to the quarterback, and they just had a really good game plan of look, we're gonna attack that middle of the field because we know they've struggled with that all year, and they did a good job of that. It's good. Hats off to them. But there's nothing much else you can say. The Titans, like I said, that guy had a couple catches in that game for more. They had one that was 20 yards, so that's bad. That's really bad, and that's something we're gonna have to look at after this year. We've needed a linebacker for a long time, a durable linebacker. Obviously, Kiko has been a savior in terms of pass coverage, but we need an all-around linebacker, and that's been a problem here for a while, and that showed in that game. I don't know what it is about Joe Flacco. Every time we play Joe Flacco, he has a great game against us. No idea why that happens. And I have no idea. And obviously, when you get down so much, the effort wasn't there. I feel like the effort kind of, I don't want to say it was in the second half, because I thought we still had a little something there, but you could really see, this is a young team. It really felt like we were just too down on ourselves, I guess you could say. We made a lot of excuses about the field and everything else like that, which it was terrible. It was a terrible field, but that is not the reason we lost. Just stuff like that. And I'm sure that Vance, great coach, he'll figure that out. And you know what? You can't. I don't care how good of a coach you are if you don't have the players in place. It's going to be very hard to overcome that, and we have overcome that a lot this year, which is why I think the job that Adam has done, Adam's staff has done, has been amazing, because some of those players did play a lot, and they still did pretty dang good. But the Baltimore Ravens game plan was to attack that, and they did an amazing job of doing that. So they got about, hats off to them. It was just a lot of mental problems, a lot of just players not being capable of doing that job. Mike Holt was a great tackler, but like I said, man, he's just not a good. He's just, especially when they know we're just gonna keep throwing it in the middle. Not a good coverage guy. So so let's move on to the offense. Now the offense, we were moving. I think we crossed the 50 3 times in the first half or something like that. Now when I say you're gonna cross the 50 3 times in one half, that's pretty dang. You think, oh, we're doing pretty good. We just couldn't finish drives, whether that be penalties. Laremy Tunsil had his worst game of his career. He had 3 holding calls on him alone. There was one that was a stretch play to the left. It was a great play. It was a great play call. Ran away from the blitz. JJ had a great run to the left. That would have set us up on the 10-yard line or the 5-yard line. I can't remember, but it was being first and goal, and it was just a terrible. I don't know if it was. I remember that being not the greatest call in the world, but Laramie had by far his worst. He ruined some drives. Obviously, there was a couple times there. That's happened a lot this year. Where holding calls, mainly Juwan James. He had a pretty bad game. Bushrod did not have a good game, but we were moving the ball. I felt like we were moving the ball, we just couldn't finish the drive. And we did that against a pretty dang good defense. Devontae Parker had a really good game. He probably had the best game on the offense, despite being, he didn't practice. One, he didn't practice the whole week, which is insane that he had that good of a game to practice. And he had a back, obviously he hurt his back the week before he hit the ground really hard. So, so one of the things that happened with this offense and it had struggled with. Now, I like the criticism that this offense can't play. If it has to pass it 50 times a game, is like they can't. It's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for any offense. But I do feel like we could. I don't know. I've seen it against the Patriots. Better defense. Well, when they saw Jamie Collins, that was a pretty dang good defense. I don't want to say if it's better than the Ravens, but it's pretty. You can make an argument that it is. We pass all over them just fine. I don't know what it is. It was some bad. Ryan obviously probably had his worst game of the year. There was one play, and another thing that this team for some reason, and obviously it has a lot to do with the offensive line being hurt for the majority of the year, really struggles on 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 13s. But when the offensive line is in there, it's better. We convert it way more down and distance than we usually do. And I felt like we didn't get a lot of pressure on 3rd down. I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It just didn't feel that bad, especially in the first half. I don't think Tannehill got sacked once. Tannehill just he made some really good plays. There was obviously the play where Devontae Parker had the ball in his hands. It should have been a touchdown, but Ladarius Webb just ripped it out of his hands, and that was one of the interceptions. I thought that was a touch. I think all of us thought that was a touchdown. Ladarius Webb made an insanely lucky play. That should have been a touchdown. Great throw. You can't throw it any better than that. Then obviously, the last interception, that was the worst one, but I didn't really care. At that point we were gonna lose. That interception was just, please, I'm trying to make a play here, and we throw a lot of them out routes, man. I don't know why, but we throw, I guess that's something that Tannehill likes to do. But it was like a third. I think it was a second. Actually, I think it was a 2nd down and 20. And this was a huge play in the game. We had moved the ball. I think we had a holding call on us. And initially, I think we were. I think this was right after the stretch play. I think I might be wrong about that, but I'm not sure. And we would have been first and goal. It was like 2nd and 20. And Jarvis Landry was wide open coming across the middle. And Ryan he tried to fit it. He didn't try to fit in there because he was wide open, but I don't know what happened on that play. Terrible throw, threw it behind him. And Jarvis tried to come back for the ball, and it tipped up in the air, and Eric Waddle had, picked it off. That was a huge play in the game. But again, this offense really could not get in a rhythm this game at all. It just felt, I don't know, it just really couldn't get in a rhythm. The run game was on and off. The pass game was on and off. Very inconsistent. I don't know. Very, very, very inconsistent. The screen game actually is starting to look like it's improving. It improved last week against the 49ers. It improved this week against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if that was a schematic thing or that's just us executing it a little bit better. Hopefully it's us executing it a little bit better. But again, I don't know. This game felt really weird. It was a really weird game. A lot of things that we haven't seen for a long time since I won a 4-star. I don't really know. I mean, pressure was an issue this game. Pass protection was because of all the penalties. That was a big part of it, and obviously there were some sacks. But it was collectively a terrible group effort on everybody's end. Jay Ajayi continued. Now he blames it. I think a lot of it had to do with the field, but Jay really struggles with balance. Like he's had a lot of plays where he's lost like 10, 15, or like 10, 5, 8 yards on cuts that you should it should be easily made, but he runs so hard he just falls over. I mean, you can make a highlight reel this year of him losing a lot of yards on runs. I don't know what it is. He struggles with that. Ryan obviously had one of his he was having a good game, and then it just fizzled out, really. Ryan had probably I would say his worst game of the year. There was one play where he was rolling out on a naked bootleg. Guy was right in his face, and they like looked at each other like they were gonna shake hands. Ryan had like 10 million years to throw the ball away, and he just took a sack for no reason. I don't know why. Like plays like that, you just scratch your head and you're like, what the heck was that? I don't know why. I don't know why that happened. I cannot. That's just stupid, is what that is. They literally stared at each. That was one of the. I was so frustrated after that play, because that set up like a third and forever. But there was a lot of fluky plays on offense that it felt like we were having a good game on offense, but the defense was just really. And obviously we couldn't finish drives on offense. Everything just fell apart. Whereas earlier in these seasons, like against the Chargers, our defense was falling apart. They were giving up a lot of points in that first half. They gave up 10 points in the first quarter, and it felt like the offense was keeping pace with the Chargers. Though it's just like this team is not. It needs to be more consistent. When everybody's on, it's amazing to watch. Now a lot of that had to do with, and a lot of people just look at that and say that's just the team. A lot of that had to do with injuries. I really do believe that. I do think Devontae Parker, I don't know, it looked like he was at 100%. It really didn't look like he had lost a lot. He made some plays this game. Jarvis Landry had a really good game. Kenny was pretty much non-existent. Tight ends, Deion Sims is coming on. He had a pretty decent first half in that game. Tight ends have been a big problem this year in terms of receiving tight ends. A huge part, Adams made some really good tight ends a lot of money. Whether that be Zach Miller in Chicago, made him a lot of money. The dude literally took a year off, then caught like double-digit touchdowns. He made Julius Thomas a lot of money. He made a lot of tight ends a lot of money. So he loves tight ends in his offense. Really haven't seen that this year because of the lack of talent there in terms of receiving tight ends. I mean, Deion Sims is primarily a blocking tight end. Jordan Cameron can't stay healthy. So, it just collectively this effort, I do not think, now this somebody brought this up and made this is a great point. If this was a Joe Philbin team, most likely this is the end of it. This would be the crusher of like he's not a good leader. Joe Philbin was not a good leader at all. He's a terrible leader. Adam is a great leader. He holds the players accountable. He will not let this slide like Joe Philbin may have. And players listen to him. The players listen to him, which is a huge accomplishment on Adam's side to establish that. And that's one of the big reasons he's changed the culture. The players actually listen to him, and they know there's consequences if you mess up. Whether that be leaving Jay, behind to go playing Seattle. Cutting people, sitting Mario Williams, sitting Byron Maxwell when they're not producing. Joe Philbin would not have the balls to do that. He can never look at a veteran player in the face and say, you're not playing well. I don't care. We're starting this guy. This is a different team. This is an Adam Gase team, and I have total faith that he will get the ball rolling again. So I wouldn't really worry about this, guys. And you guys, again, this should not take away from everything that we have accomplished this year. everybody thought the season was dead in the water. And I've said this, I said this many times earlier. Earlier in the season, all you want is to be in the playoff race in December. That's all you can ask for. And we're here, and we're in the race. We're just one game away from taking that wild card spot back. So we still have accomplished a lot. We still have a lot to accomplish, and it's gonna tell us a lot about this really, really young, talented team. And I can't wait to watch what happens. So that is gonna be it, guys. I am Skyxer1083, and I will see you guys in the next one.